A very good morning and welcome to such a rare summer's day here at London Heathrow. Guys, today I'm back at Terminal 5, but this time doing things a little bit differently. I'm going to be flying with British Airways in their Club Europe, otherwise known as their short-haul business class, through to Rome. I haven't done it for quite some time. I've never featured it on the channel, so let's jump in and check in and we'll do it together. Well, on the whole, it's certainly been a very ropey summer here back in the UK, so it was lovely to arrive at Heathrow on that particular morning to be departing out to the beautiful city of Rome with BA on such a nice summer's day. First things first, I guess let's take check-in. Well, one of the benefits of flying with Club Europe is that you do get the dedicated business class check-in desks, which are also shared with the BA Exec Club Silver members, so you don't need to worry with any of this busyness just here with the automated machines. These are manned desks, and you generally get through really quite quickly indeed. Now, ironically, no sooner had I said that I actually arrived and it was a little bit busier on this particular morning. It was peak summer, so that was to be expected. They did then open up a secondary area where you had the option of some automated check-in zones, and actually that was really quite quick, and in no time at all, I was through. Alrighty, so that's check-in done. It's certainly busy this morning, but it's in the middle of the summer holiday season, of course. Now, with business class, you do get the priority check-in, so I'm certainly going to be making the most of that this morning through the priority lane. So now it's time to work out whether I go through the north or the south. Remember, guys, you always have a choice, so do check those boards and make sure that you're picking the quietest one for the smoothest transfer on the way through. On that particular morning, it was pretty 50-50, so I just headed to the nearest priority security, and in no time at all, I was through. As ever, with Terminal 5, there's a really good choice of different restaurants available. That said, on that particular day, of course, travelling with Club Europe, you do get lounge access, so I was headed straight for one of the lounges. This was a fairly early departure on that particular day, so heading through into the lounge, despite the busyness across the terminal, actually the lounge, thankfully, wasn't too bad. In terms of the offerings, the breakfast, I think, is one of the strongest meal offerings in the lounge. There was a really good spread right the way across the board. I skipped out on that particular morning, but it certainly looked very tempting indeed. Being the BA Galleries Lounge, beyond the plethora of breakfast options, there was then, of course, also a huge amount of alcoholic options already available, which you can just go and help yourself to. I have to say, given the time on that particular day, the bars weren't too busy, but that would certainly been an option whenever, of course, you're in the lounge. So particularly when it comes to long-haul travel, I've long been a fan of having a shower before. This morning, of course, we're just off to Rome. It's not far, but it's really nice to freshen up always, I find, before a flight. Shower facilities looking a little bit their age, as you'll see from some of the shots which I'm about to show you, but overall some nice amenities, and it's certainly nice to have a freshen up before jumping on board. So let's get to that, and then let's get on board. Alrighty, so showers o'clock. Let's take a quick look at the shower facilities. As I mentioned in the piece to camera, yeah, they're certainly looking their age. That said, it's nice to see BA still collaborating with Elemis. It adds a certain touch of class. And whilst the shower facilities are indeed looking their age, A, they're a good size, and B, they do include a toilet. So whilst they're in real need, I think, of rejuvenation just now, it always facilitates a pretty decent experience. Post the showers, I then camped up in one of the slightly more business worky style of areas, which had some absolutely fantastic views on the arriving runway on that particular morning. Having enjoyed the opportunity to get some work done throughout the morning in the lounge, it was then time to head down to boarding. Unfortunately, it was really quite a delayed boarding process on that particular day. That said, when it got underway, the crew did a really good job of getting everyone onboarded and pushed back nice and quickly. Eagle-eyed viewers amongst you will see that the plane that we're about to board onto is one of BA's newer Neo style of aircraft. That's going to mean that we get the absolute latest and greatest in terms of product offerings this morning. Boarding onto the aircraft, as ever, the seats were laid out in a 3-3 configuration with the middle seat blocked out for Club Europe. Usually they do have these nice leather dividers that double up as a bit of a drink star of rest. They weren't in operation on this particular flight. That said, room was decent, not fantastic, but certainly by European business class standards, it was okay, and it's always nice for sure to have that middle seat blocked out. With the seats, you then get a fully adjustable headrest. Only difference really in Club Europe is that you do get these very slight headrest covers. They add an element of class, but really that is something that's fairly minor. Just down towards the foot space, there was then some decent charging options, both USB and also an international charging socket. So certainly a big thumbs up for me in this particular regard. Despite the late arriving aircraft, the crew did a really good job of getting us pushed back in not too long a time. Unfortunately, on that particular day, I had a really tight connection in Rome, which was eventually missed. Got in around an hour or so delayed in the end. It's something that's a real point of contention currently with BA still, and it's not something that's been handled, I have to say, particularly well from them. Perhaps a bit of an update on that front in a later video. For this particular takeoff, I'm going to spare you the audio. There were some very chatty kids in the cabin on that particular day, so we will just let the clip roll and see us take to the skies very shortly above London. That said, this is a really good time for me to remind you all, if you haven't done so already, to subscribe to the channel. The channel has been seeing some fantastic exposure in recent weeks, and it would be fantastic to have you on board if you're not yet already subscribed. Now, of course, just being the short hop over to Rome, it wasn't long at all before the service started up on that particular flight. I opted for a gin and tonic. There was then also a little packet of nuts handed out, and then it was into the meal service. Now, a bit of an apology from me on this particular front. Unfortunately, I was already tucking into the meal. It just looked so good before I remembered to film. It was a salmon and Bellinis type of meal. It was really nicely constructed and indeed put together. As ever, with British Airways, with the Dough & Co desserts, they are really as good as they look, and it rounded off what was a really decent meal service. There's plenty of top-ups of the drinks, and the crew were incredibly proactive, and I have to say, did a really super job. On days like this, I'm a huge fan of these European sectors. The views down, be it over southern France, Switzerland, and then eventually into Italy, were absolutely stunning. Sadly, there was no snow over the Alps. They never look quite so good, do they, without the snow on top, but overall, my goodness, you can't complain. Coming into Rome, we saw the cruise port just there of Civitavecchia, and then it was then, of course, time for me to reflect on what had been a nicely short flight with British Airways. Overall, as a European business offering, to be honest, I think it's still as strong as it's ever been. The catering is really quite on point. They've got the service in a really good place, I think, in that forward cabin. So overall, pretty good. I have to say the whole trip was severely tainted by, of course, the missed departure and then an unplanned 24 hours in Rome. To be honest, that was a bit of a disaster. Overall, really hope, however, the video was useful today. I've got so much more on the channel from the likes of British Airways and so many other airlines, so it'd be great for you to join me if you'd like to on one of those other videos. Otherwise, looking forward to welcome you to a new video real soon.